Good morning and welcome to Coffee Talk. This is Joe Sonona of Sonona Speaks Seminars, and my guest this week is Victoria Romeo of Romeo Realty, Team Romeo Realty in Capital Region. Welcome to the show, Tori. Tori, as I call you, right? Tori.
You can call me Tori.
Okay.
Been Tori since the day I was born, but Victoria is my full license name.
Well, welcome to the show, Tori, my good friend from Capital Region. Cheers. Thanks. So tell me a little bit about yourself, how you got in the business, what are you doing now?
Sure. So I grew up in Connecticut. I'm not actually from this area originally. The original goal was I was going to get a PhD in history. And so I went after college. I have a bachelor's in history, and then I went to get a master's degree in history. Realized I hated academia. I didn't want to do anything. I wanted to teach. So I decided to go back to school, and I got a master's degree in education. And so I have a master's in history and a master's in education. And when I got out of school, I went on interviews, but New York State had just done a bunch of teacher layoffs. So I was competing with a lot of people with experience. So I ended up falling in with an e-learning company, which was really cool originally. I used both my degrees and I enjoyed what I did, but we got bought out by a corporate publisher and the job started to change a whole lot. I was no longer in a really interactive environment. I was kind of reading textbooks and writing questions, which is a lot like doing homework full time, and no one wants to do that. So at the time, my husband and I had bought our first house. I really liked the process. And I was kind of getting to the point where I wanted a change in my career. Our agent owned her own company. And so she had said to me, come join me and help me write my policy and procedures manual, since I had all this writing and copy editing experience. She goes, get your license. If you want to do it, great. If you want to use me as a stepping stone, fine. So I said, why not? I'll get my license. And it kind of snowballed from there. I got my license the first year and I did all right. I got, did a decent amount of sales and said, all right, well, let's try it for one more year. And one more year was quadruple the sales, and then it just grew every year after. And at some point I was like, why fix what's not broken? I still teach. I just don't teach what I thought I would. And I find my ways to teach now that I'm more experienced. I teach at the local association. And after about 4.5, 5 years under another brokerage, I opened my own company and I teach my agents. And that's really kind of my background. So I come from a teaching background and just really grew my business. I call it organically. I grew my business organically because I'm not from this area originally. So, and
when did you open up your own office?
In 2016, about 4 years ago.
Okay. Nice. And how are you doing?
We're doing great.
How is the new broker doing?
We're doing great. I have 4 full-time agents, including an assistant, a full-time assistant, and I have a referral company. I have a couple of agents that hold their license in the referral company, and we're tiny but shiny, I say.
That's cool. That's cool. So this is a listing show, and you're a lister, and you're a good lister. That's why you're on this show, and I want to ask you, do you have a special sauce or secret sauce that you use when you go out to get listings?
Truly, my secret sauce is just being confident and comfortable and true to myself. I think that my background, like I said, I come from a teaching background. So that's always how I've approached my real estate business. I've always felt that it was my role not to sell anything, but to educate the public. So my job is to bring the facts, bring the materials, educate my consumer on the market, on the process, and help them make their own fully informed decisions. And by taking that approach and just being my fun, bubbly, knowledgeable self, I tend to win my clients' trust. And like I said before, I feel that I've grown my business organically. A lot of my listings are buyers of mine from the very beginning. And, every real estate agents know the life cycle of homeownership is about 5 to 7 years is that average length of homeownership. And
Right.
now that I'm, approaching year 10 in the business, I have a lot of those clients coming back and upsizing or moving out, job transfers, things like that. So I I'm myself. I educate, and because of that, I think that the buyers that I had in the past know and trust me. So there was never a question that they would be coming back to me, and I do a really good job of keeping in touch with my past clients. And for the ones that find me or referred to me or whatnot, they look at my reviews and then they meet me. And again, I'm just myself, and
Right.
I'm not going to be the perfect agent for everybody. I know that. And I don't try to be.
Speaking of education, we're both educators, past educators. That's why we get along so well. And we always like to dot the I's and cross the T's. But this talk show is about educating listing agents or people coming into our business. And, if you had to go back to day one, when you decided that you were going to be a realtor, what advice would you give to a new agent coming into the business?
Two things. One, don't be afraid to work hard, and don't be afraid to work all the time. This really is owning your own business. And when you own your own business, you've got to go out and get the clients. And that, it takes time to build up. So don't get impatient, thinking it should all come to you. Go out and work. I worked 4 jobs when I first started real estate just to make ends meet. But real estate was my primary focus. And when a client wanted to go see a home or when a client wanted me to meet with them, I moved heaven and earth to make that happen. So that now when I'm on year 9 in the business, I can set my own schedule a little bit more. But in the beginning, don't be afraid to work hard and all the time. And I think the second thing I tell people is don't feel like you have to know everything every step of the way.
Right.
This business is a baptism by fire business. And even,
Funny, I used that terminology this morning.
you and I have been in the business long enough. We still come across situations that we've never come across before.
Right.
So the trick in real estate isn't knowing the answer to everything. It's knowing how to find the answer to everything. So don't be, I meet a lot of new agents who feel like they need to be more prepared when they go on that appointment, or they need to know all the answers, and they want me to sit down and go through every scenario they could possibly come across. And I say, that's impossible. I can't do that. And no one's going to be able to do that. This is a baptism by fire business. You go out, you get the client, and you learn each client you have, each scenario you come across. You will learn so that you're more confident and comfortable the next step. And you fake it till you make it, and you can't be afraid to say, you know what, I haven't come across that recently, but let me find out and I'll get back to you with that answer. There's nothing wrong with saying that to people.
Right. I always educate new agents on saying that very same statement. Don't make up things as you go along. Be honest with the consumer. Let them know, exactly, even if you're new, let them know that you're new. Let them know that you don't have all the answers for them. Tell me, what would your advice be to someone who has more experience in the industry? Like I have 30 years experience. So what would your advice be to someone like me, or even less years of experience?
My biggest piece of advice,
just from your observations.
Yeah. To anybody in the business is be true to yourself. Don't try and be something you're not, because people are going to hire you because they know, like, and trust you. And you can't exude that without being confident in who you are and owning that and accepting it and knowing what you're strong at and knowing what you're not strong at. Like I said before, I'm not going to be the perfect agent for everyone, and I don't want to be. There's plenty of business out there for everybody. So be confident in who you are and what you bring to the table, and know that the clients who value you are the clients that you're going to attract. So don't try and go out, if you're not a technology person, don't try and go out and master every new piece of technology. You know, if you are a technology person, don't feel like all you need to do is sit and handwrite everything. You know, own who you are, use that to your advantage, and don't try and be something you're not.
And speaking of technology, what kind of technology do you use? Any special anything to enhance the listings or that you take on?
Recently, especially in light of the pandemic, what used to be more of a high-end feature was that, Matterport or 360 tour of properties. Now we're doing that on every property, whether it's a $50,000 property or whether it's a,
Interesting.
$1.2 million property. We're doing that 3D virtual tour for every single home to help decrease the amount of in-person contact we have with consumers, so that they see what they need to see before they come and see the
So
house.
you're
So that,
doing the virtual tours before, even though like downstate, we're now in a phase two, so
mhm.
we can go out. Oh, you're in phase two as well. You can go and
Yeah,
show.
we're almost
Right.
we're almost starting phase 3.
Okay, so now you're still going to use um, the practice that we did in our phase one or
Hmm.
before phase one, and you're going to carry now into your, I guess, the new normal, right?
I think for at least the next several months until, because there's likely going to be a second surge, a second wave.
Yeah.
That's what all the experts are saying. And until we can at least learn enough about the virus to have an adequate either vaccine or an adequate treatment, is the word I'm looking for. I think that we're going to continue to try and limit the amount of in-person showings that we're doing for our clients, so that the only people walking through their homes are the buyers that are seriously considering an offer.
What other? Well, we'll get to safety measures in a second, but what other technology are you using other than the virtual tours and the Matterport, the 360s? Do you do anything special? Do you do drone work? Do you do any type of drone or
For the
videography?
right, yeah, for the right property, we'll absolutely do drone. I have done video. I've done my own video. I learned how to, in the very beginning of this stuff, I actually, before we were even allowed to, meet for a listing appointment when everything was shut down, I sold a few houses during that
Oh, did you?
period.
That's interesting.
I did, and I had my sellers take their own video, and they'd take like little 1-minute video clips, and they'd send them to me through Google Drive or Dropbox or whatever they could. And then I bought video editing software and I clipped all the videos together so that we did a whole video tour of their house, and I never stepped foot inside it.
Isn't it amazing that a pandemic could teach us the many things that we need to do? And like you and I come from same educational backgrounds, different topics, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I majored in education as well, and I find myself doing things in our industry that I'm not trained to do, but I find myself going down that road to just do it and learn it, and I'm constantly learning new things when
Mm-hmm.
I list a property.
When the pandemic first hit, one of the very first team meetings I had with my agents was, let's take a deep breath, because things are going to change. But remember that none of us are going to fail. This isn't going to change the way that we have been doing business for years and years, which is to be that consultant, to be that guide. Buyers and sellers are still going to need us, because our job isn't to sell them. Because let's be honest, there's nothing you're going to say, there's nothing I'm going to say that's going to make anybody drop $400,000 on anything. The house, the product is going to sell itself. And the future of real estate isn't in selling real estate. It's in consulting and guiding consumers through a really important process, because it is the largest financial investment that most people are going to make. And our job isn't to sell them on what the investment should be. Our job is to coach them and guide them and educate them, because we do this every day. They don't. If
Well,
they're
how do you
doing,
guide and coach a seller in a listing
mm-hmm,
when the seller's unsure? Like every agent out there uses their
mm-hmm.
multiple listing. They put a sign up there, but it's that agent is. Do you think it's the agent that uses the different types of technology and marketing ability? Having that background, having that. I mean, is it part? Is it confidence? Is it knowledge, or is it confidence? I mean, I'm like, I always think that if I don't get a listing, did I say something wrong to the consumer? Did I do something to change or to alter the conversation?
I think that it's that self-aware and self-critical attitude that brings us really far. And I think that's a natural inclination for teachers, because we teach people all the time, and we know that if a student doesn't understand something, how is our delivery affecting their understanding of it? So I think that's a really natural feeling and a natural attitude and approach that teachers have. And I think all the statistics say that nurses and teachers make the best realtors.
It's true.
And it's because we're empathetic, because we can understand where others are coming from, and we approach people on their level instead of approaching people from up here when they want to be down here, or approaching people from down here when they want to be up here.
What made
And
you want to be a broker? Just
it's that
asking, just
teaching.
for that agent out there who's thinking about becoming a broker. I'll throw a little bonus question in there.
For me, I was with the same company from when I was first licensed until I opened my own brokerage. And I did a lot of work with my old broker and helping her build and grow her company. But while we had the same long-term goal for the company, I realized that we probably had two different visions on how to get there. And I didn't want to walk into somebody else's pride and joy and baby and try and make it my own. That's not my place. It was her company. So I decided that I would open my own so I could do things the way that I did, and I wasn't trying to reinvent somebody else's wheel. So
Right.
for me, I always wanted to be in leadership. And I never saw myself, if I wasn't going to stick it out with my old broker, I wasn't going to go work for anybody else. She and I had a great relationship, and it had nothing to do with, anything other than I didn't want to take over her
Right.
company. That
Change the
wasn't my place.
culture of the company, right?
Exactly. So
Yeah.
I went and I opened my own, and so that way I could structure things and build things the way that I wanted to do that. And I really have always had a passion for trying to shape, mold, and change the way that the general public thinks of a realtor.
How do
Because
you think, from your standpoint as a broker, how do you think um, the future of real estate looks in a post-COVID-19 environment? Now we're going to shift to safety, but what do you think about this whole thing with the safety procedures? What does brokerage look like? Are you taking those steps in your brokerage firm to make sure that everybody's safe?
yeah, so my agents I provide them all with a protection pack, a safety pack, if you will, that has, disinfectant wipes, it has spare masks, it has gloves and hand sanitizer. And so that's a kit that every agent in my company has, that we travel around with, so that when we're showing properties, if somebody doesn't have a mask, or if somebody needs, hand sanitizer or whatnot, we have that prepared. So we make sure that we're not only keeping ourselves safe, keeping the consumer safe, but also keeping that seller safe and respecting their property. Then after the showing's over, we go through and we disinfect every high touch surface. So anything that we touched, anything that all the handles, all the railings, doorknobs, light switches, things like that. I do think that that's going to be the norm for a little while. I think that that will eventually back off and fade away.
What about shoe booties?
We have shoe booties too. Yep, I forgot about those, but we have those in our kits too.
That's
For all of
cool.
our listings, we provide that right in the entryway front door anyway. So for my sellers, what I've been able to do to keep them safe, comfortable, and confident is we have signage at the beginning at every door. It says, please remove shoes or wear booties. Please use hand sanitizer upon entry. Everybody must be masked. And all of that is right in the entryway of the listing, so that when people are coming through, they are safe and they're prepared. And we're doing our best to keep the consumer safe, but also recognizing that life will continue to go on. People still need to buy and sell.
Right.
And especially in light of, we had millions of people lose their jobs. Those millions of people are not all just going on unemployment. A lot are seeking out other jobs. When they find another job, sometimes that job's out of state. Sometimes they have to move. So it's, we are the experts in how to buy and sell large properties, investments. And
it's true. We're the source of the resource.
So
right.
It's our job to make sure that we are guiding our clients on how to do this safely. And we're
guiding our clients. We also live up to the rules and regs, and also to the duties of our laws of agency, correct?
Mm-hmm. Always.
So if you had to pick one of the laws of agency, and I always like to give my guests the option of, I know they're all important, but if I was dealing with old car, of obedience, loyalty, disclosure, confidentiality, accountability, and reasonable care, which one is your favorite?
Reasonable care.
And because why?
I think that is my job, is to be knowledgeable, to be the one to guide. And I think reasonable care kind of embodies that. I'm not just, oh, great, you want to sell a house? Okay, I can do that. I can stick a sign in the yard. My job is to know the right way to do it, and to reasonably care for every client. And sometimes it doesn't always look the same, right? It's knowing the client's needs, knowing the client's priorities, and making sure that I'm keeping that in mind throughout the process. Not every seller is looking for the top dollar. Not every seller is looking to do the least amount of work. Some sellers want to put in that little bit of investment to get top dollar. Some sellers are unable to do that, and they just want, the fast sale with as little work as possible. And I feel like reasonable care kind of encompasses and embodies that approach.
It really does. It really does. And it's funny because that's one of my favorites. That's probably the favorite one of mine. But you'd be surprised. A lot of past guests have really changed that whole thing up and given me a little bit of a wrench. They'll say confidentiality, and this is why, and loyalty. But a lot of people have different needs. A lot of agents have different likes about agency. Well, I think that you're a very, very ambitious entrepreneur. You're certainly a very good friend. And you've always been there in leadership as well as in friendship. And I do want to plug you because that's how we met. We met through leadership of our Women's Council of Realtors. And you were the president of your network, and so was I. And then we got on the state level, you and I. Any future for Tori in a presidential capacity of an association, or what's the next steps for you? What do you think is going to happen? Because you will also serve as an inspiration for the people that watch this show, the agents that watch the show. So tell me about that a little bit as we wrap up.
It's always been my goal, from, as you can tell from my background and from the way that I handle my business, to be a knowledgeable resource in all things, and not just for the consumer, but also to other agents, and also for our industry as a whole. So as part of that passion and belief, I think it's important to be involved at the local and state and sometimes even national association level, and to be part of the changes and the guidance that come down the line. I have great respect for our leaders in NISAR and NAR for the work that they've been doing advocating for our industry during this pandemic and keeping us working while still protecting the consumer. And those things don't just happen. People take of their time to volunteer and do that. And so I believe that's part of my job, to give back to my industry. So yeah, right now I'm just starting small, and I took a step back from, Women's Council to focus more on growing my company, but also to be more involved at my local association level and at the state association level. I'm on a lot of committees. I'm teaching now at our local association. And so that's where I see myself right now. But down the line, if I were tapped on the shoulder and asked to join, or to be on the board of directors, or to, join other committees, I'm there, because I think that as long as I'm in this industry, it's my job to help protect this industry and to help make sure that it's moving forward in the right directions.
And that's usually what happens to us leaders and educators. We get tapped on the shoulder. I was tapped on the shoulder almost 20 years ago for my association, and I think I've been tapped out between between the local, the state, and the national. 20 years of service is a long time, and you're growing in the leadership. And it's just truly a pleasure and an honor to know you, really, to have met you and to continue our friendship. You're one of my favorite brokers and agents out there, and certainly a friend. So I want to wrap up this. Any last minute advice? Any last minute words from Tori?
Again, my whole mantra is be true to yourself, be confident, and know that while you're not the right fit for everyone, you're going to be the right fit for a lot of people. And on a personal note, thank you for having me. And I really respect everything that you're doing. You're an inspiration to a lot of realtors out there, and, grabbing the bull by the horns with all of our new technologies and our new realities. And it's really helpful and inspiring to have these kinds of conversations. So I'm just glad to be, and honored to have been asked. And thanks for having me.
Thank you, Tori. Thank you very much. And if you want to tune in and see Tori's interview, just go to Facebook, Sonona Speaks Seminars, Coffee Talk with the Listing Pros every Friday at 11 o'clock. And thank you again for being my guest this week. And we'll speak soon, okay?
Take care.
Take care. Have a good one, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.